main objective is that you're going to do the lab and you're going to tell me also is density an extensive or intensive property. Don't forget to look at the back page for the questions once you're done with the lab. Now, at your desk you have a cylinder and you have some different pieces of metal, and that's what you're going to test today. Now, for the scale, you need to give me an ID. One person from your group needs to bring an ID up here, and you're going to get one of these scales. The first thing you're going to do when you take the scale to your desk is you're going to make sure that it's in grams. See, let's make this bigger. Okay. And so where it says, first you're going to look where it says tera and make sure that the screen is at 0. And then on the units, it should say grams on the screen. If it doesn't, that is the units button. And you're going to press it until you see the G for grams. Okay, the G will be by itself. Okay. Now, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to actually get the piece of metal and you're going to weigh that first. Why is it important to get your mass first before you actually put it in the cylinder for volume? Why don't we want to get the metal wet first? Yep, it's going to make it heavier. Very good. You don't want to get water droplets on there. You don't want to weigh the metal and the water. You just want just the grams of just the metal. Okay? So now look at your sheet. You see how it's giving you the different metals? You have zinc, you have aluminum, you have copper, you have brass. Where it says mass, that's where you're going to put that measurement. Okay? Now, the next thing you do once you have all of your weights is you're going to put 20 milliliters in that cylinder. Okay, and the reason you're going to put 20 is because you have to be able to cover the entire piece of metal. Okay? So when you put the actual piece, now are we supposed to just like drop it hard in there? No, right? Okay, you always slide it. Can you hold this for a minute? You always tilt the cylinder like this, and you slide a piece of metal or whatever it is that you're measuring sideways. Okay? Now, the reason for that is if you drop it in there too hard, what can happen? What's going to pop out? The water, okay? And if you do that, is your measurement correct? No, right? Okay, and so you don't want to lose part of that volume. So you always slide it in to make sure everything's still inside. Now, you start off with 20 milliliters, but it's going to rise to a different number, okay? That's called displacement. So let's say it rose to 30 or something like that. Okay, I'm just making up a number. So that 30 is your final volume. And you started off with 20. That was your initial. That 30 minus 20 is going to be your actual volume in milliliters. Okay? And that is what's going to go in that paper. You see how you have an initial volume there for you is already 20? You're going to write in the final volume, whatever it is that you get once you put the metal inside. And then you're going to subtract those to get your actual object volume. You see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, now that you have mass and volume, can you actually figure out density? Yep. You're going to divide. Good. Okay, so you're going to take your mass, divide it by the volume. This will give you density. Now, you're going to tell me, is it extensive or intensive? Remember, an extensive property is when you have an amount, okay? Like 20 grams is a mass, that's an amount. 20 milliliters, it's a measurement, it's an amount, right? So remember that extensive property is a measurement. Intensive property identifies something like a substance. Are you going to be able to identify those different metals that you have? Does each and every single element have a different density? Yes. So is density extensive or is it intensive? It's intensive, okay? So now don't forget to do the problems on the back, okay? Now, the one question I got in the other period is where you have the boxes, okay? So what it means is you're going to put 3 different lines on that rectangle. So there, I'm just going to make up some numbers. Let's say you have 8.9 grams per milliliter. Let's say B is 0.05 grams per milliliter. And let's say C is like 2.5 grams per milliliter. Looking at these different substances, which one has the most density? A. So then A is going to go on that bottom line. Okay, we see that? Which one has the least density? B. So that one's going to float, right? It's going to be up here. It's going to be the top layer. And then C would be in the middle. We see that? And so that's like number 3. That's what you're going to do for number 3. You're going to look at the different densities that they're giving you. Which one's going to go all the way to the bottom? Which one's denser? And then which one's going to float? Which one has less density? Okay. Do we have any questions so far? What questions do we have? Do we have any questions on the problems? On how to set those up? On the formulas? No, are we sure?